Good afternoon. So now, as discussed yesterday during the expert forum, we see that you need to know how to figure out with operational mandates. So I hope it will clarify maybe on communication part. So I will talk about the most recent changes on Datalink communication with ATC controllers. But maybe some of you are more familiar, to make it clear, with the following sound, which is not there to startle the pilot, but just to indicate and make him aware that there is an incoming message, Datalink message coming from the ATC in the cockpit. So it's related to the CPDLC, the controller pilot Datalink communication, CPDLC message that are displayed on this kind of DCDU, but also with the aircraft ADSC reports. So I will not talk about the company communication through AOC, only ATC Datalink communications. So 2018 and 2019 will bring 3 new features. First, the introduction of the requirements on performance-based communication and surveillance. Then, they introduce the CPDLC in the continental US area. And finally, introduction of the FANS-C on Airbus families. So these are 3 independent topics, but all related to communication and reporting to the ATC. Just about applicability of this subject, it's applicable to everybody. We got Datalink solution on all aircraft, except for A300, A310, but there are STCs, and it will be part of the cockpit upgrade of the new cockpit upgrade of the A300. Yeah. So, who is concerned? Maybe you operators who want to keep operating routes with reduced separations in oceanic and remote areas, North Atlantic, Pacific, and Asian routes. If you want also to optimize your communication with the US controllers, when I say optimize, I mean to avoid misunderstandings and also take credit of the direct upload of the clearance directly into your FMS flight plan. And finally, the last point, operators, you who want to operate CPDLC, whatever the networks, you know, one installation that fit all the different ACAS and ATNB1 networks. So there are ATC implementations, new ATC services, some mandates, and Airbus solutions to cope with. Datalink is currently well deployed, but there are services, ATC services on one side and mandates. ATC services here in green, it means that it is at flight crew discretion. ATC can provide, for instance, in the Pacific area, they can provide flight level change, or for the handover transfer of communication through Datalink, but it's at pilot discretion only. It's not mandatory. It is mandated mainly in 2 areas, in Europe and in the North Atlantic, in the pink area there. Already effective in the North Atlantic, and it will be mandated to get Datalink installation on board by 2020 in Europe, if I may say, finally. So what's new? So they decided to introduce the CPDLC in the US continental area, and also decided to introduce the requirements on PBCS in remote oceanic airspace. So if you fly across the North Atlantic from to the US in the Pacific area, you may be involved. I will split my speech into 3 parts. First, introduction of the PBCS to make it clear to you, and then I will talk about continental US introduction of the CPDLC, and finally deployment of the FANS-C. First, PBCS, one brand new acronym, one new boring acronym. You may know the PBN. Julian told a lot about this. RNP-AR, the famous one. But no PBCS enters the game, providing additional performance on the time to transfer messages, but also about integrity, availability of the message, and continuity of the transmission from end to end. So if you want to access some routes, you need, if you want to access some routes, all actors need to demonstrate this performance on PBCS, all links of the chain. From the ground, the ATC, the communication providers, the aircraft with airborne equipment, but also the flight crew will take part of the performance demonstration. So PBCS, Performance-Based Communication and Surveillance, is composed of RCP, Required Communication Performance, and Required Surveillance Performance. RCP is today related to CPDLC, and RSP is today related to ADSC. So first, let's talk about RCP to make it clear. RCP, if I take the example of a flight level change transmitted by the air traffic controller up to the flight crew. The flight crew collects the message and answer back to the ATC, either enable or I will comply. But there are several actors in between. And so, for the RCP, they have all an allocated amount of time to demonstrate, to ensure the performance from end to end. And so they specified this communication exchange. Today, in some areas, you are required to be RCP 240. What does that mean? It's related to the communication exchange. It's the maximum transition time to transmit the message from ATC to the flight crew, answer back to the ATC. And this includes 30 seconds for the ATC to transmit and collect the messages. And it also includes 60 seconds for the flight crew to answer. How to ensure this? We add 2 push buttons, flashing and providing you oral alert to enable you to reply as soon as possible. That's it. So 240 is this designator, but it's only one criteria among all the others. But the easiest to understand, of course. For RCP, it's quite the same, but related to aircraft report down to the ground, from the aircraft to the ATC, so related to ADSC reports. It's the same, several actors all have an amount of time to respect to ensure end-to-end performance. Yeah. Today, with RCP 240, you have to be RSP 180. It's related simply to the time to transfer the message down to the ATC, the maximum delivery time. Yeah. So that's really nice. That's the theory. Hope to make it clear. In the reality, previously and before last year, when you entered in an airspace in oceanic and remote with reduced lateral longitudinal separations, you had to be CPDLC, ADSC, and RNP4 capable. But since that date, in September last year, ICAO published the PBCS manual, and then the FAA published its own advisory circular, and other local authorities published their own AIPs, AICs, and so on, one after the others. But they all agreed that after March this year, in such an environment, you will have to be CPDLC with RCP 240, ADSC with RSP 180, and also RNP4. That's it. That's the game. So Airbus demonstrated the onboard part of this. We provided you with the compliance statement in the airplane flight manual. On such example, you can see that this aircraft is RCP 200, for instance, thanks to the VHF Datalink or the SATCOM using the CPDLC. We also revised the FCOM to describe PBCS and to make it clear that the pilot have to notify in case he lost one of these performance capability, and the MMEL to reflect all ATC Datalink impacts. So, It's easy on Airbus fleet. If you are FANS A plus or FANS A plus B, you are capable of RCP 240 and RSP 180. You will get this extract in your airplane flight manual. Just I want you to be aware that just in case you modify your aircraft by STC with an external, for instance, an external SATCOM, this statement of compliance is no more applicable. Okay? You need to revert back to your STC provider and ask him if PBCS capability is maintained. Next, this is not the end of the story. We demonstrated aircraft capability, but you as operators, you need to be PBCS approved. You need to complete a dossier with aircraft capability we provided, but also consider the training of the pilot. He has to notify the ATC in case he lost the capability. You need also in Iceland to set max uplink delays to 300 seconds, and so on. So he must be aware of the PBCS concept, but also the flight tops, also the maintenance, and so on. You will also have to contract with a communication provider. You have to demonstrate all of this in your dossier. And to help you, we published an IZ article here. You get the reference, where all the information that can be provided by Airbus about the capability, about the procedure, and so on, we did when we published a matrix to help you over there. So that's it for PBCS. Hope it make it clear to you. Now I will talk about the introduction of the CPDLC in US continental, not in oceanic, in continental area. So most of you are aware that in the US, the communication with ATC was exclusively performed using voice frequency and the party line. But the voice frequency is increasingly congested and is not able to accommodate the increasing demand in air traffic. So they decided to transition to Datalink to avoid misunderstandings, to reduce the use of the party line. This is the first point. And the other point is to reduce the workload for both ATC, but also the flight crew, thanks again to the upload of the clearance directly in your FMS flight plan. Also, it enables to reduce delays. That's easy to say. But here the FAA declared that in case of adverse weather, for instance, they will have to reroute all the traffic. And they said that they will consider first the CPDLC order. This is what I mean when I say best equipped, best served. And finally, to reduce readback errors because of no more readback required. But this is not mandatory. This is not a mandate. This is at flight crew and operators' discretion, of course. And it's only used for non-critical operations. I mean non-critical, non-time critical operations. Departure clearance, handover with transfer of frequency, and so on. So it has been deployed into two steps. First, the departure clearance when you're on ground, and then the en route messages. So the departure clearance first, something like this. You receive the clear and unambiguous message. So you get this kind of message, clear and unambiguous, and you have to transfer it directly in your FMS secondary flight plan. It's already deployed over all the major US airports. Since I've done this presentation, we get the information that there's only one airport remaining on the West Coast. So the key figures is that you can upload, thanks to this, the FMS, the clearance into the FMS. You don't need to use a PDC through your OCC. You get direct access to the ATC. It's already deployed. And you need, for this, FANS A plus B installation with at least VHF VDL Mod A. You need an operational approval first before operating this. In this AC 80-117, which provide all the requirements. So that's nice, but there are figures to quantify the benefits. Here you can see, thanks to Harris, which is the ATC service provider mandated by FAA, it can clearly reduce the use of the party line and also avoid some delays. They also said, FAA, that they can save up to 11 minutes of waiting time at the gate or 6 minutes of taxi time in case of adverse weather. This is what they observed, clearly. Yeah. Wow. So let's extend it now to en route CPDLC messages. I mean, roughly above 10,000 feet. Here, you received a new route clearance, for instance, or another example, a deferred clearance. The thing which is powerful is that you receive this, you have to comply and to proceed with this clearance at that given time. You will go, and at the given time, there will be a reminder with oral alerts, reminding you that you have something to do. And of course, with Airbus aircraft, you upload directly it in the temporary flight plan and clearly displayed on the ND. Woo. So this was initially deployed, it will be deployed this year in Kansas City, Indianapolis, and Memphis area, and it will be extended to all en route ATC centers, the 20 ATC centers of the US by the end of 2019. So it will give you access to all the Datalink set of messages with automation with the avionics, which is really, really convenient. It will be available by the end of next year, and you need to be FANS A+, or FANS A+B, and VDL Mod 2, because they want to take credit of the faster VDL Mod 2. You need, again, an operational approval, and I insist, not only US registered, but all operators, US and non-US. It's the same requirements from the same advisory circular. And when you did all of this, you get your installation. You can set this called FANS E. It means you are CPDLC capable, and it means also that you are capable to upload your rerouting directly into the FMS. And for sure, it's not the case of all of the main competitors we have. Yeah, so you understood that CPDLC for DCL and en route messages, just you have to be FANS A+, FANS A+B equipped. Let's move on to the last part, the FANS C. As you may know, the introduction of the FANS C, there are two different ground networks, ACARS in Oceanic, ATN Baseline 1 in Europe. We provided you with solutions, FANS A+ for ACARS, FANS B+ for the Europe. But we took the credit and the opportunity of the brand new aircraft, A350 and A380, to build a new solution, A+B, that is capable to use Datalink with both ATN B1 and ACARS. But there are still aircraft, A320, A330, which are capable to perform CPDLC in Europe, but not in the North Atlantic, and vice versa. And there's an issue with the mandates which are coming. So we decided to develop FANS C product to cope with this, to make A320, A330 capable in both Europe and Oceanic and everywhere capable of CPDLC, and to be compliant with both European and North Atlantic mandates. To take credit of the VDL Mod 2, multi-frequency, but not only a FANS A+B. No, not only. We want to go further and introduce in the FANS C the ability to use the next step of ground networks, the ATN Baseline 2. This will enable to perform CPDLC, ADSC, also in Europe, using extended projected profile. What does it mean? Try to make it clear and quick. This is the ability for the ATC to download the FMS flight plan that is computed by your FMS, not the one from the ATS flight plan, not an estimated one, the real one. That can be used then to smooth the traffic. They will be able to provide you with the clearance at the given waypoint with a time constraint, with a 10-second accuracy, just to ease and smooth the traffic. So the Phase A objective is to remove boundaries to get an equivalent to Phase A plus B with additional features and access to ATN B2 that will be deployed in Europe and then in the longer term in the US. So available and certified by the end of this year. It will be first available to CESAR project partners, and it won't be available on A380, A350 before 2020 because there is already a Phase A plus B solution.
100 above.
Time to conclude. So as a conclusion, what I want you to remember is that if your aircraft is Phase A plus B, you are already capable of RCP 240, RSP 180, but you need to get an operational approval, okay, to consider training and so on. Then if you are Phase A plus B, you are good to go to operate CPDLT in the US for both DCL and en route messages. And finally, if you want to get one installation that fit both mandates in Europe and North Atlantic, or if you want to get access and to be part of the future project, FANCY is the answer, right? So I think you're clear to prepare the future. But as you've seen, so the future is almost already there. So it's up to you now, either to answer unable, standby, or I will comply. Thank you.